Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Guru Singh, the founder and CEO of Scispot. I hope I got your name right. Did I, Guru?
100%, yeah.
Very good. I forgot to ask you that before. And so how you doing today?
Cannot complain. It's getting cold in Canada.
Yeah, a little bit. And as you know, being from the Bay Area, you've been here. It's in the 60s today, and sunny, so it's pretty nice here. But there's rain coming, and when we had rain yesterday, the rainy season has started. So to start with, can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Sure. I'm a bench scientist by training, molecular biologist. Used to be a lab rat. Last 10 years, I led commercial teams at lab software companies, mainly in North America and Europe. And I recently moved to Canada. I started my own company called Scispot.io. And our really goal is to democratize life science digitization and automation. So we have created this no-code workflow automation product.
Very cool. So Scispot, let's just get into who would be your typical customer. I mean, because as you know, like in the Bay Area here, it goes anywhere from 3-person startups to Genentech and Gilead and Roche, the big boys, right? So is there a sweet spot for your product?
Yeah, current sweet spot is companies ready to scale fast. Their data is all over the place, and they want to centralize it, standardize it, and automate their workflows. So generally, we see companies, 100-people company, 150 company. We also serve startups, really early stage startup, but I would say our sweet spot is mainly companies ready to scale from 50 to 500 employees.
And you mentioned a little bit about what you do, but I mean, give me the typical scenario, because I don't think most people understand the workflow of a startup or a biotech.
Sure.
Company.
Yeah, so biotech companies are generally R&D focused, right? They have to do research and development. So R&D can be divided into 4 segments. So you have to plan your research, you have to prepare for it, like what chemicals you need, what biomaterial you need. You have to execute at the bench, that's where you run machines. And then you have to create a report. So on an average, companies spend 50% of the time on repetitive administrative things. And we realized from our experience, we can easily automate that. I mean, I shouldn't say easy, but once you digitize it, it's very straightforward to automate it. So I spent last decade understanding the workflows of biotech companies at all these 4 stages. And with Scispot, I really aim to automate the workflows, all the repetitive tasks they do.
Interesting. So, and you would think like the big guys, like the Genentechs, would have already had this in place, but it sounds like they don't necessarily do that, right?
They do have in-house softwares in place. They also have some external systems, but still their data is siloed. They probably have hundreds of different systems. And when your data is siloed, you cannot do automation on top of it. So you want to make sure it's connected. So for a bigger company, we enter as an integrator. So we just integrate one workflow to another and then add automation on top of it. So bigger companies have their in-house systems. They do have digitization, but it is still siloed. But there's no automation when your data is siloed.
Interesting. And speaking of silo, would it be potentially possible for a Genentech to collaborate with another large biotech firm and because there's also that siloing, correct?
Love it. Yeah.
2 companies working on the same solution and not sharing information, right?
That's true. Reason they don't want to share their internal research, but many of the time they work collaboratively with other partners. So they need tools to connect with external, they call CROs, contract research laboratory, or sometimes they collaborate with academic lab. So we have one module called Scispot Connect, just like Slack Connect, that helps companies connect with their external partners. It's a hyper specialized industry. You have to rely on external partners. 50% of the R&D done at any big company is externalized, done by their partners.
Interesting. I never would have thought that. And COVID probably had an effect on all of the. I mean, it sounds like your product would have been very good when COVID hit, just because of it. A lot of this stuff had to be brought together because things that people could talk to each other down the hall. Now it's like, oh, now we need real processes in place. Is that true?
Yes, that's what motivated me about a year ago to leave my comfortable job and start Scispot because I realized we cannot rely on the real world completely, right? So to find dates, to monitor labs, to manage teams, distributed teams, you cannot really rely on real world completely. So you need a digital replica, digital twin of different workflows. So this is exactly what we are doing. We created digital twin of biotech company. So even if you are not in the lab, you can access your equipments, for example. You can see the status of your inventory material. You can see the status of different projects you're running. So it allows you to work remotely more and more.
Interesting. And your team, I'm assuming you all work remotely now since you started. You said you started how long ago?
About a year ago.
So you started in the middle of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And I just out of curiosity, why did you move to Toronto for that?
I moved to, it's Kitchener-Waterloo area, not too far from Toronto. It's very effective to run a business here compared to if I moved to Bay Area. Very friendly immigration policy. So Canadian government, like in the US, it's a hassle to really start a company because of all the visa restrictions. And also government support. So you have access to grants and you have access to University of Waterloo talent, one of the best talent, if not the best talent. So yeah, these were some of the reasons. Proximity to US for sure, because US market is big. There's 2-hour flight to Greater Boston area. That's like a mecca of biotech.
Yeah, and you literally can drive to the US in about 45 minutes from
100%, yeah.
So very cool. So where do you see this going now? Now that you've built this, do you see it just like expanding and expanding and expanding? Are you concentrating on the US and Canadian market right now, or are you concentrating on the worldwide market?
We do have customers in Africa, Mexico, Europe, but our target market is North American market, very entrepreneurial market, and biotech companies are growing in number more rapidly than any part of the world. So we are focusing on this. The reason we are super excited about it is because there's like bio revolution on the horizon. You are seeing companies from Starbucks. So you see there are scientists sitting at Starbucks or their garage, just like what happened to other industries. And they outsource everything. They go to lab once a week to do small experiment, then collaborate with academic labs. So this industry is becoming more and more democratized, and we want to support that wave and help really people work from their laptop computer instead of spending all of their time at the bench.
So it sounds like what you help them do is get to the results faster. I mean, those results could be negative too, correct? But you'd rather know that faster than than later.
Fail fast is the mantra in this industry. It takes 10 to 15 years to bring one drug to market. Wow. People are desperately waiting for cures, but it takes like 15 years to bring cures to market. So when I was thinking to start a company, that was my motivation, because if you can even help a drug to come to market 5 years faster, you will end up saving so many lives. So there's a huge impact potential here.
Yeah, interesting. And you're speaking of like working remotely, it seems like too that your product allows, let's say I'm a CEO of a biotech startup, right? I think it, correct me if I'm wrong, but it allows me to go find the best talent wherever they are in the world, because you help facilitate that communication, correct?
It does give you quite a bit flexibility and freedom. So you don't need all of your, for example, you don't need necessarily your lab manager to go to your lab to check the status of different samples, inventory, materials, because everything is already digitized. So on Scispot, we have modules to manage inventory, equipment. So lab manager, for example, can work from Starbucks or from home. So it does give you more flexibility. You cannot eliminate lab element completely, but what you can do is you can give more flexibility. So you can probably, instead of spending half of your time in the lab, now you just have to spend 10% or 20% of your time in the lab.
So that is definitely a productivity increaser. Well, Guru, it's been fascinating talking to you. Hopefully more and more of these biotechs take advantage of your offering and get better cures out. I'm not gonna say better drugs, but better cures out there in the near future. Does that sound good?
And faster too.
Yeah. right, get it to market, and or find out that it's not the right one, right?
That's true.
And hopefully they can help with that. There's a pandemic going on right now that maybe they can help with that.
Yeah, that's true.
So, well, thank you again, and have a great night.
You too. Bye. Thank you.